Welcome back. Here we are, and marital happiness.
Oh, yeah,
marital happiness and things that can affect,
yes,
change or alter a marital happiness.
Yes.
And welcome. Genesis 3 and verse 12. The man said, "The woman you put here with me, she gave me some fruit from the tree, and I ate it." Then the Lord God said to the woman, "What is this you have done?" The woman said, "The serpent deceived me, and I ate." So the Lord God said to the serpent, "Because you have done this," and I'll stop right there. It is natural to blame. And a question that we have before us, not question, the idea is one of the things that we know does affect marital happiness the most. One of them is blaming your spouse because you are unhappy.
Yes.
Blaming your spouse when you're happy goes down as one of the main effectors of marital happiness. And I just wanted to read that to start us off with, because blaming is as ancient as our beginnings. It's in us. When we don't feel happy, we absolutely want to find out where's the source. And it's better to be able to put the source on our spouse, or globally on our marriage. And if we do that, that alone will affect marital happiness. Ironically, that practice affects marital happiness. So what do you think? That's one of the things. Blaming your spouse.
Yeah, I think that when we think about ourselves and we think about what's happening, I mean, you always talk about it, what's happening on the inside, what's happening on the outside.
The distinction, yep.
Right? And so making that distinction, if I'm unhappy on the inside and I'm not willing to do that work, I'm not ready to do that work on the inside, it's easier to point the finger and give blame.
Yep.
And so I was trying to think about in us, like in our relationship, when or how has that come up?
Oh, it's come up.
Right? And so I particularly what I was thinking about is when we were arguing constantly about our finances, and I was hiding money and using money and not telling you about money, and I would fight with you about it and say, "You're cheap and you're making the budget too bad," and I was on you all the time. I hated the way you did the budget, and I felt like it was making me miserable. You making me miserable by the way you're doing this budget.
And it did have issues, but go ahead.
But what I wasn't ready to do the work then of looking at how I was spending money and how I viewed money and what I thought about money, and realizing all the bad habits I had around money were me, and you were in the way. Honestly.
And I was in the way.
And you were in the way. And so when I finally was able to look at, but Pam, you have your own money. Why do you keep running out? That has nothing to do with Antoine. And I started to do the work. Now we're on the same page about money. But until I was ready
to do the work in you,
in me,
yeah, that illustrates it. That illustrates it really well.
I was like, Antoine is my problem.
That to an extent I was.
And his budgeting routines is that's my problem.
I say that is actually a really good example, because it ends up when you make it all about your spouse is the reason why, your marriage is the reason why you are not personally happy. You paint yourself into a corner where now you're just stuck. You're stuck pointing the finger, which feels good for the short term, because it's like, well, it's not me, it's her or it's him. But at the same time, now you're stuck. You're in a corner, and that unfinished work within yourself never gets dealt with. So you can get two people or one pointing at each other. You're the reason why I'm not happy. No, you're the reason I'm. Now look, we talked about this on the way we were talking about our topic to get here, was happiness. think of it as like two-sided, inside our skin, outside of our skin. There's the feeling of happiness. That's that feeling of you feel confident, you feel loved, you feel hopeful,
Right.
you feel good about yourself and your career, your body, your mind, just life. You feel good, right? You just, what's that? One of those happy songs.
I'm loving it.
I can't even think of one of the songs now, but all the happy songs you can think of. But then there's happiness. We think about the stuff outside of our skin, the circumstances.
Right.
Job is stable. You're healthy. Plenty of financial setup. You've got a good string of things under your belt and looking forward to. Just noticing the difference, because here's the catch. This is why blaming doesn't work. You can feel horrible about yourself and have great circumstances and be married to the most amazing man or woman on the planet and still feel unhappy. It's possible. It's also possible to be married to somebody who got some real flaws, and I mean serious ones, addictions, or they're just kind of withdrawn, or they've got some character flaw that's really irritating, and still be happy. And be still very accepting that pain, but still being happy. Mm-hmm. So I think it's just good to know that being happy has two different sides. The stuff that in terms of the internal feelings and thoughts, which is really more about us. And then, of course, there are circumstances. And there are some circumstances, not to sound flippant. So I don't want to sound like, just be happy no matter what. You should just be grateful. I don't want to, because that's not true.
Because you do acknowledge that there are some people in some really tough situations.
Horrible situations.
And so those, we're not diminishing that.
Not at all.
But what we're talking about is really for each person to look at themselves and say, is there work in me that
is unfinished,
that I'm not willing to do the work of working it through, and so therefore I'm pointing.
I'm blaming my old annoying husband, wife, marriage. Right. It's my marriage. That's why I'm not. Why I'm not happy? Him. Her. Right.
Yeah. So there's that difference, and that distinction definitely needs to be made.
Yes. What about for you? Great conversation to have. Think of this one for yourself, not even directly just with your spouse. Am I not doing the work that is unfinished in my own character and in my own life? And so it's easier to point the finger because I'm in pain or feel unfulfilled at my spouse. Now, does your spouse still have faults and problems? I'm not talking about that.
Yes.
Those are things you can request change. But even in there, some changes may not come at your time. And to be honest, our spouses may not be the problem at all. It's on the inside where we are not happy. A great question to ask ourselves is that question. But look at the 4 dimensions of your life, apart from your spouse. Are you happy with where you are in your career, in your work life? Or do you feel you feel bad because you feel like, man, I need to be somewhere or doing something more? Are you dealing with issues in your health or just in your body? You don't feel good about the way you look. Is there some work that I need to grow in there? Are you struggling with relationships outside of your spouse? A lot of times we blame our spouse for not being everything because we don't really have any other relationships, no other friends, no other connections. And maybe it's the growth in other relationships that we need. And finally, are you just having fun? Are you doing things that you enjoy just because you enjoy them? Maybe your spouse can join you, but things that you got to figure out. Work, love, health, play. Those are all domains of our lives that we can grow in personally rather than blame our spouse, first thing on why we're not happy. Fight to be happy. Don't blame your spouse. And this